right, now I'm getting all kinds of energy influxes here, being in this graveyard. Now, the reason I'm here is because I had a very visceral experience with this particular location some years ago, and it was completely unintentional. Completely unintentional. Wow. This is one of the more charged graveyards that I've been in. Of course, it's incredibly old, but you know, we know that's not the mitigating factor when it comes to some of this purported activity still lingering in certain places. Nonetheless, I did want to visit and document that experience that I had on a Memorial Day about 5 years ago. There you go. There's the Frizon. Yep. That's how old this graveyard is. A tree has already grown right on the grave spot, right on the point of burial. And I had to put the tombstone up against the the trunk of this felled tree. So about 4 years ago, I was in Holden, Massachusetts visiting my kids, and it happened to be Memorial Day, and they were having some sort of display. It was an honorary display in the way of a parade. But this was sort of unique because they had the line drummers and the cadets with the muskets riding behind, and then people were following them from one graveyard to another. Now, one of the interesting things about Holden is that there are many old graveyards just right out in the open on the main street. So this was sort of a natural course, at least in way of celebration. So we decided, the family decided to go down to the first graveyard. And once we got there were about 30 other people who had been following up to this point, and we were just sort of jumping on the wagon, if you will. In watching the procession, as you know, the honorary members that were coming in to commemorate began the procession as it was, I started seeing what appeared to be these very thin, translucent, sort of white, if you will, if you wanted to kind of try to give it a color. They were standing behind and sort of encompassing everyone, but they had this very somber and sort of morose disposition about them, completely soundless, but they were there. Now, at this point, I started saying, well, this is a little odd, and I was starting to feel perhaps what was there too. It was this sort of melancholy wave of energy that would just hit all different directions and, you know, really kind of put me off foot, if you will. Not uncommon when it comes to, you know, having an experience like this, but it was very, very intense. And as we started moving, I looked over to my kid's mother and I said, "Do you see what I see?" And she said, "No, what do you see?" And I described it to her. She said, "No, but I've been feeling something since we've gotten down here, some sort of odd energy that's sort of just in the air." And I thought that was pretty interesting, but curious nonetheless, because I was going to just continue on and, you know, like I usually do, not think too much about what it was. So we started moving up to the second graveyard, and as we did, I would have expected these specters to sort of dissipate or, you know, kind of fall out of frame of mind, perception, whatever it is. It wasn't fleeting. I actually watched them mix in with the 30 people who began to follow this procession up the road as if they were filing. And once they went into the crowd, I couldn't visually see them anymore, but my God, there was this wave of energy that kept coming stronger and stronger the closer that we got to this top graveyard. Now, by the time we had gotten up there, it was like this very thick, I would call it energetic comforter, just holding on to me and just ripping my heart out in a way of empathy and sadness and melancholy. It was one of the most overwhelming empathic experiences that I've ever had. Now, at this point, I was trying to talk to my kid's mother and say, this is what's happening, but I couldn't get the words out. I was choked up to the point where, the tears were just welling in my eyes so much that I literally could not see. So I had to gather myself for a moment, and we're in a crowd, we're in public here, and people are starting to take notice about this guy crying over here on the side, but I couldn't stop. It was just heavy, chest-heaving sobs, and yet it wasn't mine. It felt sort of healing, in a sense, like it felt like a release, this energy, but again, it wasn't mine, and I knew that at the time, but couldn't control my expression of what I was feeling. I ended up having to excuse myself from the event, go back to their house to gather myself in a normal fashion. And when I actually decided to start walking the opposite direction, I left the sphere of attention and what was going on there like walking on a wall. Couldn't feel anything anymore. It was like it just stopped, truncated right there. I'm sure if I had the withal, I could have turned around and sort of played with where this threshold might have been energetically, but I was certainly in no mind. But this is just one of many experiences that I've had, and I'm sure many people out there are in the same boat. They can say they've experienced something similar, especially in the way of being empathic. I want to go back to the older graves here. And we're shooting it 1990s style. Look at this. This is the only flashlight I have at my disposal. We're in the 1990s here. God, it's dark. God, it's really dark. Why the hell is it so dark? Why is this not being repaired? I feel nothing but peace here. There's nothing here in the way of what we need to study. But we are in a place, burial. And we are looking into this. Shit, I can't see anything. Alright, we're gonna go over here. This graveyard is not haunted. And I wouldn't expect that. Of course, in a place like this where you have a gated community, people have lived long lives, enjoyed the hell out of themselves, and then decided to be buried here. Well, I can't blame anyone for wanting that end. I'm not afraid of anything metaphysical. If anything, I have concern for physicality and people at large, that they don't know themselves and may do something that is against the grain within their intrinsic nature. The dead don't bother me. The dead talk more than the physical do. So what is this? What is this certain barrier that's dissolved once we find our place in the etherics? There's nothing to hold back. Everything is unabashed. And apparently, at that point, we know who we are. So what the fuck does that mean for us here now? And how can we make something of this notion? We will all end up here, either in the ground, cremated, or otherwise. We will all die. So what do you leave behind? What are you doing for the greater good? What are you doing to progress your physicality here in the way of humanity, knowing that we are a collective? Bring us sobriety in way of death. Death is the natural sobriety.